Okay,
Welcome to.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. For anyone listening, I probably won't cut this out. We're trying a new streaming service today, a new recording service. So
you're far too easy.
And you've just heard that little mess up at the beginning there. That's because we're trying something new. But anyway, welcome to Blue Monday. Another eventful weekend for the Toffees, and probably not in the way we'd have hoped. We'll go into the game a little bit first. I know you covered this off a lot on post-match Dave with Matt and Rob. Nice to hear Rob returning and back on form there. But yeah, the weekend's game. I think I want a little delve into this perceived thing at Everton about the Premier League experience and stuff. And it's not John Dice who does it; it's the club themselves do it as well. So when we're appointing a manager, it's always, well, we need someone with Premier League experience. This seems to go through to the manager. We need players with Premier League experience. I think Roman Dixon did all right at the weekend for having no Premier League experience. I thought Lindstrom and Ndai added a little bit of something for like 10 minutes before the whole game went flat. But yeah, what you think of that? I mean, it made a bit of a nonsense of it at the weekend, didn't it? And I think as Rob pointed out on the post match, I think we'd sooner go into these games if we're going to concede 7 goals in 2 games and score none. I think I'd sooner have done that with players we know nothing about and seeing what they're like rather than what we've done. It's become a big problem already, hasn't
it? It's something that was I noticed on his presser before the weekend, and I was concerned with it straight away. I said this was on BBC Merseyside the day before the game, and I said, you've got the media asking you about Everton's injury issues and whatnot, and going with the first team down to London. I think one of the first things he said was we've only got 14 first team players to go down there with, which is worrying enough when you're only 2 games into the season. I know we'll get into how important this week's going to be for us and to the final minute of deadline day. But when he's saying stuff like that, what I thought would have been, I think it was Julia Boulder was talking to him about this. I think he probably would have kicked off if that question was asked, and he said, "Well, what's your plan B then, Sean? The only thing you can do is take some of those young players down with you." He was asked that he went to Tranmere for the under-23 game. Then I think it was the night before.
Yeah.
And he started saying about young players, he needs to bed them in. He needs to see, he needs to see them and, to make them ready. And I was thinking, as soon as he said that, I had a real issue with him saying that, because I was thinking, well, you've got to do it when you've got no other option. What else are you going to do down there, Sean? Ironically with that, after the game, he come out and said, what a better situation to play younger players when you go down there. It seemed to me like a complete 180 from what he said in his press conference. And they're the type of indications of a worried manager, I'm not going as far down the line as saying I want him out and all that. Plenty of people have already said that, of course, is when you've gone and lost on aggregate 7-0 in your first 2 games. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of concern, and for many fans, that's like, if you start like that, you've got a 6-pointer coming up against Bournemouth, you probably don't give a shit about Tuesday's game against Doncaster, because it's just an extra game where we need the players back fit and whatnot. So there are loads of different facets in this before we even went down there, Les, and what he selected there, Dixon at right back, thought he was fine, didn't outdo himself, didn't shame himself and anything like that. That said, it wouldn't have been out of place if he did. It wouldn't have been out of place if he was absolutely dreadful, because there were plenty of players there who were like that. You look at, there's so much naivety when we go to them away games like that. I mean, Spurs away, we are notoriously poor. You go to that big stadium.
We've won 7 times in 40 years at Tottenham.
Yeah, but that's it, mate.
It's like any of the big teams, isn't it? Over the past 40 years, let's say, we've won a handful of times in each of the grounds.
Yeah,
so
it's the method in which I think that's the difficult thing to not fathom, because I think when you see that 11, I think, what, put your hard hats on you. You I'm not saying you take a defeat, but if we come away from that with a draw, it would have been quite miraculous when you look at that lineup.
Yeah.
he's decided not to go with new signings. Lindstrom came on, looked handy when he came on. He was the only player who had a shot on target, I think, as well, and that got to like 70 odd minute.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, was that side of
Yeah,
things.
we had 10 shots, we had 1 on target, and that was as soon as he came on and it won at the keeper.
Yeah,
it was a decent shot, like not a bad save, but I'd say, you know, he came on straight away, had an impact. And it's, you know, that's what these players were brought in to do, wasn't it? You know, they are an unknown quantity for us, but they are for the opposition as well. And you just think, like, I mean, a lot has been made of playing Michael Keane and Ashley Young. Obviously, he couldn't play at the weekend, but I think possibly the bigger issue for me is he's going with the same up front. He's going with the same set of strikers who managed to score, was it 40 goals last season?
Yeah.
Was it that many even? Yeah. But it was
second or third worst or something like that.
In terms of lowest, yeah. Aside from like Luton and Sheffield United, it was the lowest goal return in the league. And he's carrying on with that, you know, that front line. Now, for me, we were never going to get away from Spurs without conceding. So for me, you might as well try and score. You might as well go for it. And you're not going to get anything like we saw out of that front four with Harrison, McNeil, Decore, and Calvert-Lewin. Calvert-Lewin just doesn't look like he's bothered, does he? He's not. No. He's not really doing much. Then again, maybe he's not getting much of the ball because we're just not creating anything. You know, McNeil, he's been labouring around. Decore has been terrible since he got back from that injury. And Jack Harrison just does Jack Harrison stuff. So it's like there's nothing really up there, is there? Up the front, there's no dynamism. There's nothing that an opposition defence would look at and think, yeah, I don't fancy this today. I'm not for it. So I think that's the bigger problem for me. You know, we have conceded 7, which is obviously a massive worry in the 2 games. That said, I think both of those teams are going to be up and around the European spots. Probably underestimated Brighton, but after seeing them against United at the weekend as well, I think they're going to be up there, aren't they? So, you know, that 2 tough opening games. Bournemouth won't be easy at the weekend either after the way they played against Newcastle. They look like they might be all right. But yeah, it's the fact that we're not going for it and we're not really trying to score goals. He's trying to keep it tight at the back. And when you've not got your first choice defence, and when you're not attacking in any great numbers or with any great threat, that puts pressure on the defence again. So I just don't get what he's trying to do.
Yeah, I think his go-to plan has always been keep a clean sheet. I think, you know, half an hour before the game, sitting in the changing rooms, putting the kit on. Don't concede, lads. Just don't concede. I think that's been his mantra since he's ever been a manager, to be honest with you. He was like that at Burnley. I understand that's why Everton have got him in, why he kept us in the Premier League for the season after we've had him for. Perfectly reasonable because he's done the job that we needed him to do. I think when you get to a stage like this, things need to be done a little bit more efficient. I just feel as if you'll get found out in the Premier League is basically, I think that's one of the things that I'd say to many fans of clubs, like newly promoted clubs. You see like an Ipswich, I think the 3 that have come up haven't took any points yet either. Or did Leicester took a draw against Spurs?
Got 2 draws.
Well, that you find out quite quickly. Exception of Leicester because they were in the season before last, weren't they? So, you know, and Southampton. But the point is the way in which you play. You've got to realise, and he should know this, and I think he will know it, which shows you how desperate sort of situation we're in right now. That if he's going in and saying, you know what, lads, we're putting 10 behind the ball as much as we possibly can and look to counter-attack. I think that's pretty much what is going to be on his chalkboard all season long. That's okay. That's fine if it keeps us up, and that's what we're still in. Like it or not. As much as we did in the predictions and all that sort of thing, Everton need to stay in the Premier League. That's the priority. I'm not going to go down the route of people saying 8th place and whatnot. As I did do with Matt Flush the other day when he was on post match. Because look, I'd be delighted if we go and do that. Do you know what I mean? But he needs to have some alternative there, and he hasn't. And I think his immediate response to that be, well, I'm stuck here. Look, I can only use what I've got to work with. I think what you said then is spot on, as in you have got stuff to work with there. As limited as it is, the limitation we have, we all know about that. But when you're starting to lose games, silly goals to nil, got to go and try something different, Sean.
Yeah.
See if anything else works. Do you know what I mean? And he tries that out. He did his usual late substitutions, which is far too late in a game as well. Putting Dai on, who looked handy too on the left hand side when he come on. Things started to look a little bit more like you could actually go and have some shots towards goal there. But by and large, when you go to a place like that, I understand you go into Spurs away. Like you mentioned, you go to bigger sides away, you're going to have 20 to 30 odd % of the ball. You've got to be able to absorb that. Everton do that. I've done that to get points. That on Saturday was so concerning to me that, like you mentioned about Keane being in there, he's going to get ripped. If he had a 10 out of the 10 game, people would still rip Michael Keane. That's
he did something wrong.
Oh yeah, that's the narrative. He could have scored hat-trick and then we didn't concede a goal. There'd be an issue with Michael Keane just because of everything that's gone since he's been an Everton player, where he's due a testimonial in 18 months, I think, Michael Keane, which is remarkable. One of the goals that they scored, I think it might have been the fourth, when comes in from the corner, and it was, I can't remember if it was that goal or not, where Keane and Tarkovsky, there's a yard between them and someone in the middle of them. Both of them go up and don't win the header, and they just flick it in and score from it. Those things,
I think.
Yeah, those things are the specifics that I would hope Sean Dyche be ripping the last of his hair off when he sees that sort of thing, when he comes back today to look at these lads and tells them what we need to start doing. But going forward there, I mean, McNeil, that lad now is looking back to what we used to say in terms of he just looks like he's struggling. Each time he got the ball, Les, I don't know if you noticed this, but he constantly turned back and started sprinting towards the halfway line and sprinting across the park. I understand you're looking for a pass, but every single time he'd lay it back to fullback or centre back.
Yeah, he would.
Turn round, Dwight, go the other way. I know you've got minimal options, but you're on the team to go in that direction. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I thought was it was quite healthy to see Lindstrom on there. He looked like he was heavy to impress. He looked like he wanted to get on and do his best he possibly could. And he did. But you referred to Harrison there, barely had the ball. I mean, if you told me that he wasn't there, I'd be like, you're probably right.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Calvert-Lewin conundrum. I say it's a conundrum, but it's something that's been consistently an issue, isn't it? When he's not on form, that's a major issue in itself. But when he's not receiving the ball in attacking positions, you can't really fault the lads. And he gets knee-jerk reactions. I get that. Some of those fellas who were down at Houston after the game, there kicking off big time. I'm sure a lot of that had been thrown towards Calvert-Lewin, saying all sorts towards him, saying you can't score a goal, all that sort of things, and that's just being very nice about some of the things that were said there. But I get sympathy towards him at times, and I'm starting to get it more and more now, given who's working with him, who is there to work with. It's gone backless to that stage where we did really well towards the end of last season, because it's not rocket science. You've got people crossing the ball to the lad. You've got players close to the lad. Lo and behold, he starts being some sort of success up front. Don't understand why Sean Dyche hasn't got something to work with that, especially given two lads he signed there and then Dai and Lindstrom.
Well, yeah, you're saying if you want to keep a clean sheet, we need to be able to absorb all that pressure. And the best way to do that is if you've got an outlet ball or a couple of outlet balls of fast lads who you can just knock it up to. It's not nice, but it can be effective. And if you score on a counter-attack, like Spurs did, I think, for their fourth, where we had a corner and it was at their centre-back just bombed it the length of the pitch and passed it to Son, who started it in. It's a great way to score a goal because you turn a defensive situation into attack. You can do that when you've got fast players. And, we're just not starting with fast players. Just on the start of the season, though, and we'll go on to what happened at Houston in a minute. We've lost 2 games and we've lost 2 games badly. But do we need a bit of perspective? Because it is the start of the season. I don't think we won a game for 5 games or something last season, wasn't it? It feels different this season because last season, when we were losing those games, we were playing well, it felt, and we were creating chances. We just weren't scoring. Now we're not creating chances. So it feels a little bit more concerning, doesn't it? Because I think we've had 2 shots on target in 2 games, and we've forced 6 corners. 1 against Brighton, 5 against Tottenham. Tottenham alone, on Saturday, forced 12 corners. And, you're saying the way Sean Dyche plays, it's defensive, get goals from set pieces. We're not forcing any set pieces. We're not doing well in defence. Although it's only 2 games, you've got to have that perspective. There's been plenty of seasons where we've lost our first 2 or 3 games and we've done all right. So there is that sort of caveat that it's not the end of the world. But I think when you're not turning in performances as well, and you can't really see what the manager's trying to do, what the team's trying to do, particularly as towards the end of last season after that Chelsea result, he did find a way to make this team win games and win big games. Those 3 games we won in a week, including Liverpool, that was massive. And you couldn't see this team at the minute doing that, could you?
No, and 2 games in, Les, I mean, first thing you can turn to, again, I refer to the train station issue, that's a complete different thing in itself. I will probably talk about forward. I mean, it was embarrassing what happened there on Saturday night. And you get to a stage now where you're 2 games in and you've conceded 7 goals and you haven't scored against the home game at Goodison is much more concerning than the one down at Spurs. Because like we said there, hate to say it, but anything from Spurs away is a surprise for the way we are. This one at home against Goodison was the particular concern to me. And look at the pressure it's already putting on when we play against Bournemouth coming up. And I feel as if this week, I mean, obviously, I think we may well get a couple of players back for what he's going to work on this week. But that to me feels like a 6-pointer. It feels like, I'm not saying it is, but it feels to me like that. And when you've got younger players we've brought in, I think I felt really sorry for Bonham on Saturday. Felt really sorry for that lad because he covers a hell of a lot of ground. Reminded me a little bit of Onana, where you were like, who's he got to work with around him? It's just a guy, again, sympathy with him. That's a huge pitch, by the way, they've got at Spurs. It looks like they're playing on 2 of them at times. Whereas we don't have a system that works particularly well in those areas. The passing of the ball, Les, as well. I mean, you do amateur footy, younger lads footy, you see some of the passing, I'm like, what is going on here?
Just quickly on that, so Spurs had 71% possession, we had 29. That's immaterial, really. If you win a game like that, it's fine. But the passes, we made 251 passes with a pass accuracy of 74%. So if you're making that few passes, your passes have got to count. And when a quarter of the passes are going astray, that's bad. That's really bad.
I'd like to see what that converts to long ball as well.
There's
a point where there's sympathy is probably the wrong word, but there's a point where if you're playing long balls, which is what we invariably do every game, that's our go-to, isn't it? Calvert-Lewin up front, hopefully there's someone by him who we can flick onto, or it feels inevitably that he's going to chase his own stuff, and that seems to be what happens away from home. That's an issue that Sean Dyche has always had, to be fair, in my opinion. But you get to that amount of that statistic you've got there on passing the ball, successful passes, and the attacking plan is to go long ball up to Calvert-Lewin and whoever he's got in and around, unfortunately, get possession of the ball. Or problem we have away from home is there's someone not within maybe 15, 20 yards to that there.
If you look at like not the heat map, but when they have those player positions, overall positions on the pitch, Calvert-Lewin's up front on his own. Jack Harrison, Mikalenko's almost behind Pickford. So he was playing so deep, he was almost level with where Pickford was for the majority of the game. Calvert-Lewin was on his own completely. Jack Harrison was tucked into midfield. Dwight McNeil was over on the left a bit, but there was no one anywhere near Calvert-Lewin. And as you say, if you are going to hit long balls like that, you've got to have someone close to the striker to feed off that and then start some phase of play in the opposition half from a flick on, and there's nothing.
No, and again, refer to it, mate, 2 games in, and you're seeing this. What's he been doing with them up to this potential point? Look, I get the first reference to, if anybody doesn't want to criticise Sean Dyche, is the alternatives that he got. They're virtually not, and he had to put better on in the end, and that was throwing the headless chicken on there. It was like going down to 10 men when you put that fella on. To go to a point where I've got sympathy over the fella, I think he's crap, is another sort of red herring for all of this, isn't it? Who else have you got to put on there? You've got Shamiti there, who I thought might well have been somebody who we include a hell of a lot this season. The lad suffered a really bad injury. You might not see him for a couple of months and stuff, but when you're there for it in a position where you think, I can't wait for this kid who's played about 10 games for us, most of them off the bench, he's who we're going to end up relying upon. But then the other thing with it, Les, is, you've got, what is it? We've got a week now, or less than a week, to get a striker in, to arrange with Calvert-Lewin what's going to happen going forward. Is it the 4th of September this year, is it?
I think it's Friday. I think it's 30th of August.
Yeah, that's even worse, isn't it? Everton have got... I'd like to think, because these things have happened in the past, where you lose a game and you've got to go for an knee-jerk reaction to go and sign some players. And I'd be happy if they did that, to be honest, Les, because something needs to change quite quickly. And be interesting getting comments from people who are listening. Am I going a bit too knee-jerk with it? And I mentioned this in the post-match. I think it's reasonable if you've got serious issues here. Now, I obviously wouldn't be saying that if we'd gone and won and scraped 1-0 wins, or we drew the first 2 games. Completely accept that. That's granted. But when you consider you've got a full season going with what we've got, that famous saying we've always used, we go with what we've got. That how much of a concern that to you when you go carry on with that Everton squad, even when we get everybody back fit?
Well, that's it. Had we scraped a couple of 1-0 wins in these 2 games, you could see that whatever he's doing is working.
Yeah.
But whatever he's doing clearly isn't working, and I'm not even sure what he's trying to do. I can't see. I just can't see what the team's trying to do. They're not trying to create, or they're not being successful in creating chances. They're not forcing anything. They're not making the opposition do anything. Like you saw on Saturday, Jordan Pickford had a terrible game. A lot of it stemmed from when he took that heavy touch from the back pass and Son closed them down. But you've got Jordan Pickford there, very, very experienced player. 99 out of 100 of those back passes, he'll just knock to his left and clear it down the pitch. He took a bad touch, but he had a fast player pressing him and pressuring him. Yeah. Now, if that had been us, there'd have been no one near him, no one near the goalie. He'd have taken his touch, he'd had all the time in the world to ping it up front, because we've got no one doing that amount of pressing. And it just, that for me, it shows you put some players with pace on and tell them to go and force the opposition into mistakes. You can force any player into a mistake. And we've just not got the players or the impetus or neither to do that. I just don't know. I'd say I don't think it's time to sort of hit the panic button, because we are only 2 games in. But that quickly becomes 3, 4, 5 games. And then it becomes an issue. I can genuinely see it getting to the end of September when Everton play Palace, and one of those teams will get the first win of the season that day. I can fully see that happening, because that's kind of what Everton do, and that's what Palace do. It's like the 2 teams who you want to play if you're on a losing streak is Everton or Palace, and I can see us facing each other at the end of September, and one of us will get our first win. Yeah. In which case, I just don't know what position we'll be in at that point. It could be looking pretty bad, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could, and that's why I keep saying this. This Bournemouth game feels really big. Feels really big already. In more in the context of how we've played in those first 2 games, it don't look like we're going to score a goal. We've hit the post, haven't we, and had a goal chalked off because of VAR. That's all that's happened, and we're 1 shot on target against Spurs away. I do have sympathy with Dyche, and I know for a fact that I sound like I'm contradicting myself here, but I think that these two things entwine in what I think the issue is, in that he's not notoriously been known, not known for being like a free-flowing, attacking sort of side anyway. But when Everton don't have any alternative to that, that's where it feels much more concerning that he's the Everton manager. Now, people are already calling for his head. We'd have lost 1 game this season. People will be calling for his head. If we'd only lost that Brighton game and won at Spurs, people will still be saying Sean Dyche shouldn't be the Everton manager. There are people who dislike him anyway since we first got him. I was one of them. earned this season to carry on going forward. But quite vastly, I think these first two games, 180 minutes of football, have expressed a lot of issues Everton have to sort out quickly. And by quickly, I'm talking this week. Other issue with all this, Les, I mean, we've spoken about it as the summer's gone on as a bit of a narrative, is Calvert-Lewin. You've got a few days you've got four days after this to arrange what is going on with him. Right now, as it stands, it seems to me that it's just going to be let it play out, and he has a go where he wants because we lose him at the end of the season. I do wonder what our listeners would say in regards to that being the case. If you were told the scenario of Everton stay up and Calvert-Lewin goes for free, you're content with that? I'd probably say, yeah, that's fine right now. But having said that, we've had clubs at Newcastle. I mean, it's pretty obvious clubs have been in for him. Pretty obvious that that's happening. We haven't gone and done it. And in hindsight, I understand that Everton have decided as being reluctant to go and do that and tell, well, he's wanted to keep him. That's all we've had up front. Completely understand that's the issue. Between now and it seems to have happened a lot in our history. You've got to go a few days and it's make or break to get players in where you think we'll be sound with that lad. We'll get him in, we'll be fine. I'd imagine, I'd really hope that today Thelwell's running up and down the country trying to find a low one to come in as a forward. You've still got Mopé there. I'm actually surprised he wasn't thrown on at some point in these two games. I'm actually surprised.
Well, he did get a run off pre-season, didn't he? So, yeah, I think I was as well, really.
Yeah, well, when again, go back to the fact you've got no alternatives. You've got Beto there. I mean, you go with what I keep saying it. You go with what you've got, and we have to do it. Look, if Neil Maupay gets on, I'd ask the question of, do you think he's got more chance of scoring a goal than Beto? Probably say yeah. He's a better player than Beto. Yeah. And look what we're talking about here. Let's 2 games in. I'll say Calvert-Lewin is off form, as we know. Minimal amounts of chances, if any. A lad maybe that gets injured because he's got a poor fitness record. He goes. We just choose between Beto and Mopé. That's like me saying, do you want to have the runs or do you want to have constipation? It's you pick which one of those two, and you're like, I go with the Mopé, who seems like the constipation because we want to sell him. That's here, mate. 2 games in, that the whole summer to go and sort this out, and we haven't. Yeah. And the easy thing for the club, to be fair to, and I think Dyche has actually stated this, is the financial problems, the ownership problems. I've found cracks in what he says as excuses, and that, to me, when a manager starts with that, it generally only ends up going in one direction.
Yeah, well, this is the thing for me. He does look like, and some of the things he said, he does feel like he's already under pressure, which I find a bit mad, because I thought going into the season, there was no pressure on him, other than the pressure that he brought on himself by doing pretty well last season, really. And, that's what a manager should want. You should welcome that pressure that you've done a good job the season before, now go and build on it. Yeah. And that's the pressure you should want. The whole in the argument about the money, yes, the club is skint, and we all know this, but they're just going to spend 32 million on a centre-back and a number 10 there, and he's not played either of them. So it's like, if they weren't like priority positions, you got 17 million centre-back and a 15 million pound number 10. They the players you want, or the players you got bought, and the players you were happy to get in your team, and you've not played them. So you can't really say we've had no money if the players you have bought for big money, really, for Everton, and you're not playing them. So it doesn't make any sense. Or if you didn't want those players, if you want the 30 million pound striker, go and get 30 million pound striker and don't get those 2 players. It's just none of that really adds up to me. And yeah, I think you say, we've got Doncaster on tomorrow night, which I hope he put a decent team out against. I know a lot of people will say, it doesn't matter. But I always think it does matter, especially if you've lost your first 2 games. You lose to Doncaster, then that becomes a really bad losing streak. Then this is a game that we should not be losing tomorrow. So I hope we do put a good team out. You should be starting Ndai. You should be starting O'Brien. You should be starting Lindstrom. They should all start tomorrow. So hopefully they will. Else it will be looking pretty ropey and the atmosphere might not be very nice come Bournemouth. Just quickly before we go then on that nonsense at Houston, I can understand people's frustrations, and I know, at the game, a lot of us boo, we'll shout at the players, we'll call them out if we're not happy with them. But I think to do it in the context of being at the train station and getting that irate that long after the game, I don't get it. There's just no place for that for me.
No. Well, so it's where social media sort of gets set on fire with stuff like this, isn't it? And you get people heavily to one side and heavily to the other. Thankfully, the response that I've seen when I put out what I did, saying, this is idiot, you're an idiot if you go and do that. You're an absolute idiot if you go and do that. And many people, most people, a high majority of people replying to that saying, what's happening at this football club if you're going and doing that to these people?
Yeah.
What got me is the particular fella that you can see and you can hear mostly of his voice. And people saying, referring to him, I've done it myself, just referring to him in particular, but there were plenty of others there with that. There were plenty of others in the background. You can hear shouting, you can hear abuse towards the players. I go back to something that, probably, again, thankfully, a majority of people would say, what benefit is that? How is that helping anybody? Frustration, all the things that people use as an excuse, or that guy went and did. I get that. I understand that. How many times we do podcasts every single day, mostly frustrated about the situation. Well, I think you can sort of, is it that difficult as a 50-odd-year-old fella to just keep his counsel a little bit? You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't even mind. These lads are going past and saying, even like, listen, lads, that was shite. Come on, let's pick it up or whatever. You can say stuff within reason, actual abuse.
Yeah.
What good is that doing anybody? You think like, say you're a Boonham's walking past there, kid that's just signed for us being our best player for the first 2 games. I think a large amount of people would agree with that. And he's getting that load of shit at Euston train station where people have actively gone to stand next to a barrier.
Well,
that's out of choice, Les. That's not.
No, just on that.
These fellas are just walking past me.
No,
I
think people have been held back so the players can get on the train.
Yeah.
So I think everyone's held back. So they haven't waited there to see the players. I don't think, to give benefit of the doubt, they've probably been held back. The players get on the train, then everyone else gets that on. So I imagine that'd rub you up the wrong way a little bit if you're having to wait to get on the train while Leeds just
a priority of like £1 million players. I get that.
And I think that would get you back up. But then I think what kicked it off mainly was Neil Maupay telling to F off, didn't he? I think, and then that's what really sort of like lit the touch paper and he went ballistic.
Is he entitled to say that? Is he entitled to do that?
Yeah, if you're saying, if you're giving players dogs abuse, like, not even in the context of the football ground, in the ground, you can maybe say, okay, it's in the heat of the moment, the match is on, you've just seen them get beat 4-0, the players are walking off, it happened down at Brentford the other season, didn't it?
Yeah.
They came down to see the fans, they got like dogs abuse off the fans, which
fair enough. As well, where Seamus came out after it, wasn't it, a couple of years ago?
Now, I don't really like that myself, but I can see why, and I might do it myself. If you just don't know in that situation, do you? In the ground, how you feel. You feel that angry. You see the players, and you just want their heads on spikes at that moment. But I think, when a couple of hours later, or an hour or so later at Euston Station, even if you've been held back and you're pissed off about that as well, you've had a few bevies. I think it's a bit much for me.
People are saying you pay your money, you take choice. That's fine in the context of you pay your money and took your choice. You go to a game, you can do what you like, again within reason. You can boo, you can shout, that's the beauty of going to a football as a fan, is you're expressing your opinion and you can shout. But come on, it's within a context of
exactly.
You're going to sound. Look, what's he made Everton look? What's he made Everton fans look like? I'm one who isn't particularly bothered about Everton's reputation in terms of we're a laughing stock and whatnot, because we know this is true by many clubs that laugh at us. You've seen, a shitty betting company who always seem to do it every season in terms of taking the piss out of Everton. Look, I get that. We're there to be shot. we're sitting ducks when it becomes the way we are, the way we've done those couple of open games. I get that. You're absolutely right. When you're at a game, I remember when we went down to Swansea, went down there with Matt and Paddy a few years ago, and we got beat 1-0, and we had Stecklenberg in goal, and he conceded a header from Llorente, and we were at the front, and I don't know if I remember telling you this, and I was about 5 or 6 yards from where he was. I was right in the front row, and I just blacked out and went absolutely ballistic. I was like, what are you doing? How are you a goalkeeper for us? You need to fuck off. All that sort of thing. In the time at the moment, you do that when you've travelled all that way. And that was what a lot of people referred to me about when I was saying it's bang out of order. What he's done is, how are you going to feel paying a few grand to chase this club around the country, and you see efforts like that? Completely get that. You're absolutely right. that season we did it a few years ago, Les, and we're coming back. It takes us a 6-hour drive coming back, and we just lost 1-0 in the middle of winter. No one's enjoying that. We're not sitting there enjoying it. We enjoyed each other's company, which was handy. But when you're coming back from something like that, you sit there and you're like, why do I do this? But you go back and do it again and again and again because you have that loyalty towards your football club. Turning to them directly when they're getting on a train, you can't affect anything to do with that game. You've already expressed your opinion. You've gone on something like this, you've gone on radio shows, you've gone on TV when they ask you stuff about it after the game, and you give your opinion. That's fair game. You can say that, obviously, don't start swearing and all this sort of thing, which, fortunately you can do on here. Shit, I've just said that word. Do you know what I mean? If I can say things on this, we can do that. That's our platform, because that's the devotion to Everton. If you're fuming, you come on here and swear, fine. We wouldn't go and do this with a load of the lads coming off the pitch next to them and you can hear what we're saying.
Yeah.
Footballers, when they came off, a couple of them went over and clapped the away fans, as they always do. You're going to hear everything, you get thrown at you, but you're going to understand why that's the case when you've just got battered 4-0 and you've had one shot on target and people have made the 400-mile round trip. Get it? Go to a train station, though, where you're coming home on the train station, there's them lads there. I'm just going to go over and start screaming at them, calling them all sorts. And I think, a couple of fans there, you get younger fans as well. That's the other thing that gets me. A lot of younger fans there who want an autograph or a photo or the shaking hands. Have you seen that? You look in the background, I think you see Holgate approaching, you see a couple of fellas, younger fans and all that, want to shake his hand. You see that with a couple of players. Fair play to Holgate, he's a rabbit in headlights now, isn't he, at our club, and people thinking how on earth he's still an Everton player. Probably go along with that, to be honest. But you've got younger lads there who are like, footballers are still their heroes. We still live in a culture that's that. I think it goes missing a lot, given social media and things we do. You don't realise that when you were a kid, you see a footy player as a kid, and you just think like there's an order about them. Still think that'll be an issue for an issue. That'll be a thing that younger players, younger lads, younger fans are going to be like, oh, it's amazing seeing him, do you know what I mean? And he shakes his hand and whatever, photo, selfie, all that sort of thing these days. What sort of culture are they in when you've got some 50-odd-year-old fella screaming his head off as loud as he can, ripping people apart? And I think you can hear vaguely as well as there's Keane, he's shite, and as he's walking past, I don't think you can easily hear that. And much like you said there, you'll smile at it and laugh at it, and you think, okay, but then when you get to the level in which he got to, mate, I'm like, how's that help anyone? Firstly, I think that's the first thing many people will say, but secondly, why'd you bother, mate? If that's leading to you being that irate, and you're not forced to do this, you are not forced to go down there. I understand why you do, because you're a diehard Evertonian. We did that. We all do that. You go to games because you're an Everton fan. You're loyal to Everton. But why? I don't get what the sanity is in your mind if you think that's going to do anything to help anybody.
Yeah,
maybe it is a sign of like fame. We're sat here on a Monday morning talking about some fella doing that. Do you reckon he's sitting at home having a cup of tea? Do you reckon that fella's sitting at home having a cup of tea thinking, I really shouldn't have done that? I'd hope he is. Or is he going to be sitting there thinking, having a laugh with his mates, saying, you see how funny that is? It's gone viral.
I would like to say no. I just think we've all done stupid stuff when we're bevied. No one can say they've not been a knobhead. especially when you've had a few drinks. I would imagine there's a lot of fellas got back, woke up Sunday morning, fat head on them, thinking, oh, Christ, what did they do yesterday? And you know what? Fair enough. We all do stupid things. So, you can't pass judgment on like anyone too much, because you do stupid things. I just think that long after the game, you really need to try and just take a step back from it at that point. When you're out the ground, you've walked back the station, you've bitched to each other about how bad it was crap, why is he playing? You've got all that out your system. So I just think it was a bit mad to do it, but it wasn't us in that situation. I would like to think that the fellas who were there doing that, they've woke up feeling a bit of regret on Sunday morning, probably just for going down there in the first place, to be honest. Right, we'll leave it there for this week's Blue Monday. As you've probably seen, if you're watching this coming up tomorrow, we've got Matt and Paddy with the Everton byline. We'll have the weekly, we'll have subs weekly, we'll have mailbag, and then we'll do it all over again for Bournemouth at the weekend. So thanks for listening.
Let us know what you think of our brand new format here. We're going to put all sorts of messages on the bottom. Things might get funny as well in mailbag. There's all sorts that can go on with this now.
There's probably going to be about 2 minutes at the end while we suss out how to stop the video and stuff. So just switch off now because we're going. But cheers, Dave. That's been Blue Monday. Up them terrible toffees.